This morning's reading is an excerpt from the Introduction to A Chosen Faith, an Introduction to Universalist Unitarianism by John Buehrens and Forrest Church. All theology is autobiographical. As are most sweeping generalizations, this one is false. Yet it does provide a useful hook for ministers who enjoy talking about themselves. Equating theology and autobiography may be somewhat facile, but less so perhaps for Unitarian Universalists than for followers of other faiths. For most of us, our faith did not choose us, we chose it. Born Catholic, Jewish, Protestant, Muslim, or into a secular or mixed household, when it came time for us to affiliate with a religious institution, we sought one that fit our own thinking on us. This is even true for individuals born into Unitarian Universalist families. In our religious education programs, though we place special emphasis on liberal religious traditions and values, we also introduce our children to many different religious and theological approaches, encouraging them to formulate their own beliefs and make their own commitments. Unitarian Universalists are neither a chosen people nor a people whose choices are made for them by theological authorities, ancient or otherwise. We are a people who choose. Ours is a faith whose authority is grounded in contemporary experience, not ancient revelation. Though we find ourselves naturally drawn to the teachings of our adopted religious forebears, these teachings echo with new insights of our own. Ralph Waldo Emerson did not seek disciples. He sought people who could use their minds and tap into their souls as profoundly as he did. In a Unitarian Universalist church, revelation is an ongoing process. Each of us is a potential harbinger of meaning.
I'm hoping the water will prevent me from coughing. There are days where I think my job would be so much easier if I wasn't Unitarian Universalist. It would be so much easier to explain to people who ask me, so you're a what? A what minister? A Unitarian Universe? What is that? It would be so much easier if I could just pull from my pocket a creed, a statement of belief that all of us believe in, and just leave it at that and go on my merry way. It would probably be easier, though I might not agree with it, and maybe in other ways hard. It could be easier if we were in a denomination where decisions were made hierarchically and where someone else could decide all the governance decisions for me. If we had our own UUA Pope, so to speak. Or it would be possibly so much easier if all of us shared the exact same central religious text or the same religious language with each other. I wouldn't have to be confused and going between different religious wording and wondering who I may be offending this week. There are lots of ways, possibly, that being a different faith could be easier. But the things about Unitarian Universalism that makes it hard sometimes, or in some ways, is what makes this faith so appealing, so necessary, and so enriching. Unitarian Universalism doesn't have a common creed because we are a faith that practices living into the questions instead of handing out the answers. Our faith doesn't have an easy elevator pitch because we are the wonderful interreligious, intertheological house of worships where atheists can pray unironically, where theists can define and redefine and change their definition of God, where Buddhists can meditate, and where seekers can search without pressure to find something. We are a place where we can learn together what it means to be human, to revere the mysteries of the holy, however we decide to define it. Unitarian Universalism doesn't always have a simple governance because we value the democratic process, to the point that each and every congregation has its own governance system that it decides for itself. It is led by the vote and by meetings and by the participation of every person. We believe so much in the value of democracy. And Unitarian Universalism does not share the exact same religious language. I'll be preaching one week about the values and virtues of an atheist perspective, and the next week about different definitions of God. But what is so beautiful about that is because we are a space where we can talk to each other honestly about what we believe in and find those truths that lay between us, that weave in and out, that translate across different ways we talk about faiths. A faith that sees no contradiction in speaking different religious languages to honor the faith of individuals, but also to honor ourselves and each other. This faith is beautiful. It's made real by our choices, by how we choose to live into our questions, to act on our values, and journey alongside each other. Or as my home church, where I grew up in East Shore, in Kirtland, Ohio, would say, every Sunday, not to think alike, but to walk together. When we come together as a congregation like this, it's not to say you believe in the same things I do. It's to say we want to journey with you. We make a commitment to walk together. And that commitment is a choice. But no one lays out for us exactly where we're walking towards. Every community has to make that decision as well. That is also a choice. It is a choice to decide what the future of a religious community will look like. Everywhere across the country at the moment, religious communities of all faiths are trying to navigate what happens next in this kind of after, not really after, we're still in a pandemic, but we're not, but where are we? And there are some things we can see that every church, no matter what their religious affiliation, are going through. Every community across the country are experiencing drops or changes in membership, are experiencing difficulty with funding. Everyone everywhere is trying to figure out the future of hybrid worship, understanding that the combination of being hybrid and being in person, both online and in person, is not going to go away anytime soon. In part because memberships of all faiths have people that are now moved away from the physical location of where people used to worship. And everyone everywhere is trying to figure out what the future looks like. Does that sound familiar for us too? This is beyond just religious communities. This is also schools, your workplace or jobs, maybe even local governments. Things are quite uncertain. And yet also, I can feel it this spring. There is this change, this hope, this possibility. People are returning to in-person events. They're starting to explore family trips and vacations. We're starting to reimagine job positions. It truly does feel like spring, because with uncertainty comes possibility. Possibilities for a thriving future. It depends a lot on the stories that churches tell themselves. Sometimes churches, if they see decreasing numbers or or possibly decreasing funds can easily turn to anxiety or scarcity thinking or fear. And yet also right now, we are seeing churches thriving, communities reimagining their mission, the focus of their work, galvanizing resources towards a vision of who they can be. And the difference between letting uncertainty spark fear or letting it spark possibility and hope is the choice, the active choice of being part of what comes next. In 2019, that was a few years ago, we together had a service where we cultivated our priorities as a community. We said we would like larger social justice activism. We wanted to grow religious education. We wanted to honor our sacred spaces, nurture our community, and connect to our wider Staten Island community. These goals are all possible, and they already are happening and have been happening in this community. But it requires everybody who decides or who wishes to be part of our community. It requires your investment and involvement. It can be easy sometimes to feel like a congregation is just kind of the board leadership or lay leadership or the staff who are kind of just making everything happen. It can sometimes even seem that way, and it's easy to fall into routines or structures where the expectation is on the lay leadership or staff to kind of just continue to make church happen. But everyone here who's part of our community knows that that's not true. A congregation's future is voted on by the whole membership at the annual meeting. It's determined by the volunteer energy in our committees. It is determined by the financial resources offered by every single member. That's just how community works. We would literally not have the lights on if it wasn't for the contributions, labor, and vision of all the members we have now and all the members that have come before. None of this would exist without you. And therefore, it takes all of us to dream and invest in our community that can become. For example, our social justice efforts on Staten Island, connecting with larger social justice, that happens because of the members in this church. When I see our memberships, not even myself, show up to interfaith events and interfaith vigils put on by the Interreligious Coalition, when I see the ways that our members support local nonprofits, when I see the ways that our members talk about Black Lives Matter in our community here on Staten Island, it takes all of us. Our religious education, that takes the care and participation of our children like Eric and John or Isaac and Ivy or Rhea or Solel. It takes the parents. It takes creating a space, creating policies that make it happen, nurturing this community. You have exceeded that in the last 3 years, gone above and beyond between the men's and women's groups, between the membership committee putting on events, between showing up for each other, preparing meals, making calls. You can see where I'm going with this. How we live into the dreams we have happens because of the everyday actions of every single person in this community. I am honored, amazed, and so grateful for all that you do. Maybe it seems obvious for me to say that, but sometimes I think the obvious bears repeating, because I've been struggling to name something in the last year. There's a way that in our wider culture, spirituality and also religious community are kind of treated like a new Netflix special. You can just sit back and enjoy and watch through and see if it kind of fits you, and I don't know. And that's nothing wrong when you're searching or when you're seeking, but it almost has this expectation that spirituality or religious community is just free. It's just there. And nowhere in no faith is that true. And also, if it didn't come without a cost, how faithful would it be like, too? Every religious community everywhere takes the cost of volunteer energy, of time, of dedication, and yes, of money and intention. But all of that creates the beautiful work of the world we want to build. I know that my life is different than anyone else of faith, however you may be coming here today. But I've given my life to Unitarian Universalism. And over the years, it has cost me a lot of different things in different intangible ways, and I would pay that price 100 times over again. Because this faith has changed me, body and soul, forever. I am proud of the ways that I humbly continue to try to live into my best self. And I do that because I'm partnering with communities like this, because of this faith. So everyone has a choice. You can choose what the future looks like. You can choose to participate in spirituality or in religious life in many different ways. And of course, here, there is no pressure for you to decide. There is a freedom, and there should be a freedom in deciding what you want to do with your spiritual life. But with that freedom, like all freedoms, also comes a responsibility to nurture the ability to have that freedom for other people, to invest in communities where we can be free, to search for truth, not by any creed we stand or space, but because we want to do it together. I think it's worth investing in. So I'm going to open this space. I've talked enough for you to share. If you're visiting with us, what might have brought you here today? Or if you've been here for a while, what brings you to our community? I'm going to allow, if you're online, go ahead and put that in the chat. I'm going to come with the microphone around and ask you, what made you choose to come here this morning? Any takers? Sure, Elise.
So I needed connection. COVID really gave me a deep appreciation for human connection. I don't want to Zoom anymore. I still Zoom with some friends, but I really appreciate community even more, and health and just so many things. But so community and connection brought me here today.
Lovely, lovely. Yes, Christine.
So I think it kind of relates. One of the themes within the leadership of the church, I'm a member of the board and president of the board, but it's also been preached from the pulpit many times, and it's kind of been our underlying sensibility, is that we are not alone. We can't maintain this church alone. Whatever it is that any one of us chooses to do within the church may be an identifiable, singular, but it's all part of the whole, because, we are not alone. And I think that's the thing that really helps us all, wherever we are within the moving this church forward on a day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year, we should be able to see those links. And I think if you spend a minute and a half, you'll see them. And you'll see maybe, the links that you have for your own connection to this church. 5 years ago, you did this. 10 years ago, you did that. Last month, you did this. And this is what you're going to be going. But we can all see those links, and we can all see those links from one to the other. And I think that that's really been crucial, a crucial sensibility to keep the leadership focused and to appreciate that our minister preaches that from the pulpit, because I think that's been so abundantly clear as we've gone through a pandemic. What does it mean to be alone? And we've all tried to find ways of meeting that challenge.
Thank you, Christine. Anyone else? I know I'm putting you all on the hot seat right now. Yes, Kathy. Okay.
Well, for some of the people who've been in the church for a while, they know that my original purpose in coming to the church was to provide my children with an alternate. I wanted them to learn about other religions. I was brought up Catholic. And as a child, I was very engrossed with my religion to the point of thinking of being a nun. But as an adult, I saw, that there were problems with that church and also my own belief. in God was changing. And I wanted my children to have an opportunity to learn about other things. But now they're adults. So why do I keep coming? And I keep coming because I believe that it's the human beings that are the important part of this world. And I think that it's important to have a place to be where people are encouraged to be their best self. And I think this church does that. And so that's why I keep coming.
Couldn't preach it better myself, Kathy. Yes, Jill.
I've been coming to this church since 2016. And the reason that I came was because of the Black Lives Matter banner. I used to go to Snug Harbor, and I passed by a few times and I saw it. And I thought, you know, that's probably a place that where I would feel comfortable. I'm not a member of the church. I just come here and I feel very much like I take and I don't give back. You know, I mean, that's a sense that I get. So I don't know if that will hopefully be changing. I've done some things at the church, and then of course COVID, you know, stopped that in a lot of ways because we couldn't meet in person. But the spiritual reason, I'm an atheist. I don't have any you know, religious beliefs. But I felt like community and, you know, people caring about the same things. And like Kathy said, you know, the value of humanity and seeing people's humanity, I find it lacking in all aspects of our life, you know, all the time. So I feel that here, you know, people's humanity is respected, and it's really a relief from, you know, the rest of the world to be here among like-minded people. And it gives a lot of comfort and a lot of connection in a world that feels very hostile.
Jill, I truly appreciate that. And just because you're not a member of the book does not mean you give so much to our community and participate. And we're very grateful for you. Thank you so much. Yes.
So like Kathy, I came to the Unitarian Universalist Church, and it was originally in New Jersey where I lived, not this church, because of my children and wanting to expose them to a spiritual community and understanding of different religions. But the reason why I went to the Unitarian Universalist Church as opposed to anything else, I also had been raised Catholic and was not very happy and didn't want to bring my kids into the Catholic Church. But when I had been involved in organizing international solidarity campaigns for workers in Mexico, it was always the Unitarian churches that were most supportive, and the Unitarian churches that would host speaking engagements and provide space and send delegations and all kinds of support. So in looking for something for my children, that was the immediate where to turn. And so I keep coming back for the same reason, that there is that, even though we have all our differences and everyone has different beliefs, we share a common bond of concern for social justice and needing to personally and collectively do what is right for the betterment of this world.
Thank you so much, Mary. Sally, did you have a few?
You could hold this and do the camera. Do the camera. Yeah. So my name's Sally Jones, and I started. David and I live not far from the church, and we used to come to some services. The first one I think I went to was about George Curtis, and we lived across the street from Curtis High School, so I had to come then. And then in 2002, when we were on the brink of war with Iraq,
and formed Peace Action, this was the place that welcomed us and nurtured us to start a peace organization in Staten Island. Again, it had done it before, back in the 90s and earlier than that, 80s. So I didn't become a member. Juliet, I totally understand that for a long time. 7 years later, I did. And it was a combination of needing something personally, I think. So it's a, you know, this church stands for a lot of important things, not just anti-war, but environmental, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, so many things. And it felt like, you know, we have to give back. But I also needed something personally to steady myself. And I think that this place has done that. And I think it's partly the community, the model of all of you is very helpful. So thank you. Oh, yeah. So Maureen said that was Juliet. I know, I apologize, Juliet. I'm sorry. I am here because this church fills a gap in my life and helps reinforce my beliefs in and hope for a more just and accepting world. That's from Maureen.
Any final reflections from anyone this morning? All right. I will then leave you with this question and just a time of reflection. As you've discerned what you may be looking for in your religious life and your spiritual life, as you've discerned why you choose to come here, I want to ask you, what do you want to choose for your future and for the future of this place? Whatever you decide, I hope that you continue to find ways to live out and invest in the dreams of all we can become, in the dreams of what you do, and that you may choose wisely. Blessed be, and amen.
Now is the time in our order of service where we take an offering. We know it is the gifts of all of us that help support our ability to thrive and gather. For those in person, we invite you to drop your offering into the basket at the left of the stage as you exit to the parish hall after the services. For those online, links and instructions have been posted in the chat. You can mail us a check or donate to our PayPal giving page. Please give as generously as you can. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Now it's time for our closing hymn. Please turn in the teal hymnal to number 1028, Fire of Commitment. Stand, take a big breath. This is an exciting hymn, so please join in with enthusiasm.
Thank you, Kevin.
1028, the teal hymnal.
1028.
From the light of days remembered, burns a beacon bright and clear. Golden hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When we fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze. When our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From our stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic cross, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. I invite you to join me in extinguishing our chalice. Please repeat after me if you know the words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As Reverend Hope Johnson once said, we are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. May we choose a future for our community whose vision matches our investment and our faith. And may we together choose wisely. May it be, and amen.